Time to take a look at what's making headlines in the world of business. I'm joined by Karis Garland. Karis, it's something we've talked about quite a lot, that wave of strikes which has disrupted the US automakers industry, but it finally looks like it might be coming to an end.
Yes, after all this time. So the United Auto Workers Union says it's clinched a tentative agreement with General Motors. And as you said, that's after 6 weeks of walkouts. It comes after the union struck deals with both Ford and Stellantis last week, the other two members of the Detroit Three. Those agreements will see pay rises of roughly 25% over the 4.5-year contracts, plus other improvements to working conditions. Nearly 55,000 workers and dozens of sites were involved in the industrial action, the first in union history to target all three firms at once. While US President Joe Biden, who had visited workers on the picket line, hailed a historic agreement.
Let me say a few words about the UAW and the big three automakers. Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis. They have reached a historic agreement and a hard-fought agreement that was really battled for a while, but it was all done in good faith. And these record agreements reward auto workers who gave up much to keep the industry working.
Meta has announced that Facebook and Instagram users in Europe will now be able to sign up for ad-free subscriptions. Starting in November, users on desktop browsers can pay about €10 a month, while iOS or Android users will pay roughly €13. It's in response to tougher EU rules on how tech companies use people's data to serve them highly targeted ads. Brussels has already hit Meta with huge fines over privacy, and these new regulations threaten to curb the company's major revenue source. Taking a look at the day's trading action now, well, Wall Street rallied this Monday, kicking off a week filled with a Federal Reserve rate decision, jobs data, and more earnings reports. Dow Jones up 1.6%. Registering its best day since the beginning of June, both the S&P and Nasdaq closing about 1.2% higher. A Hong Kong court has given Chinese property giant Evergrande one last chance to come up with a new restructuring plan or face liquidation. A judge pushed back the firm's winding up hearing, originally scheduled for Monday to December 4th. Evergrande is the world's most indebted property developer with more than $325 billion in liabilities and is at the center of China's property market crisis. The company's $23 billion offshore debt restructuring plan was thrown off course last month when its billionaire founder was confirmed to be under investigation for suspected crimes. And finally, the US has for the first time started buying Japanese seafood to supply its military in the country. It says it's in response to, quote, Chinese coercion after Beijing banned imports of Japanese fish amid the release of treated water from the Fukushima nuclear plant into the sea. Jenny Shin reports.
The US is extending its hand to the Japanese fishing industry, which has been feeling a major pinch. Amid China's sweeping ban on imports of Japanese seafood, Washington says the U.S. armed forces will purchase it in bulk to counter the move.
It will be in this area of scallops, but it will then broaden to all types of fish, be sold in all the commissaries across the United States bases, 17 of them. China will continue its economic coercion, but the best way we have proven in all the instances to kind of wear out China's economic coercion is come to the aid and assistance of the targeted country or industry.
China was once the biggest buyer of Japanese seafood in the world, with a market valued at $600 million last year and accounting for some 40% of Japan's total seafood exports. That all changed in August when Japan began releasing wastewater from the Fukushima nuclear plant. Japan's sales to China fell a staggering 76%, a loss of approximately $14 million compared to the previous month.
China consistently and firmly opposes Japan's release of contaminated water from the Fukushima nuclear plant into the ocean.
The reputational damage to Japan's fishing industry stretches wider than just China. The government has vowed to protect the sector at all costs, announcing emergency rescue measures valued at $140 million, which aims to develop new sales routes to Europe instead of China.
I don't know, Jean-Emile, Japanese scallops seem pretty good to me.
I completely agree. I have to say, I'm getting a bit hungry just thinking about that. Not obviously those images of the fish on the ships there. That is the business there with Karis Garland. But